Right, of course, we normally talk about the swath of China, of course, in Africa, what is really happening right now. And we can see most of their parties, or that particular party, the CPC party, has been particularly intent in making sure actually they're driving the agenda in Africa. They've been here in the country as well. They're in Tanzania, and of course, the intend to reach more parties in Africa. So what does this portend as far as communism is concerned? Are we also harking back to communism, or are we also quoting the Chinese? Of course, we have their loans. Will we also buy their policies? This also is a topic of discussion. We just want to hear from our panelists before we drill deeper with other international news this morning. Allow me to introduce this morning to you Major Retired Lucy Mukuria. She's a military psychologist. Also, we do have with us Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, who's conflict and resolution expert and also national security expert as well. We do have with us Dr. Hassan Hananje, who is the director at the Horn Institute. Also, we have Dr. Peter Biarajak, who is the senior advisor at the International Growth Center. Also, he's the chairman of South Sudanese Young Leaders Forum. And we do have with us as well Professor Noami Damba, who is the vice chancellor of KC University and also an expert on defense and foreign policy. The Chinese invasion, can we begin from there as well? Now they're quoting political parties. They will do this also, as they promise, within Africa, reaching out to 40 political parties. Let's see where we know the ideologue or, of course, the policies of the CPC, that is their party. As far as communism is concerned, could we just begin from there? Are they trying to subtly drive the agenda throughout Africa? Because, of course, we've been really talking about the debt that the Chinese are loading over Africa. We've had also the CS yesterday say that, yes, still, this particular plan of the SGR will go even to the foreseeable future until 2027. And Kenya still is resilient in trying to service this particular debt as far as SGR is concerned. Yeah, let's hear your thoughts today, this morning. We begin with you, Lucy Mukuria.
Okay. I think first it's important to begin with what the whole conversation has been about, how Kenyans are treating, how Chinese people are treating Kenyans. And for me, I'm worried because we sort of rally around the idea that how dare they treat us like that. My take is you train people how to treat you. So if they are treating us in this way, we must have given them the idea that we can be able to stand that kind of treatment. I'm very concerned because I feel like, again, I've stated this here before, we don't have like an identity, or we don't know who we are. And in our minds, I think we have this thing where if somebody is of a lighter skin, is Caucasian, maybe what, they're somehow better than us.
Yes.
So that worries me. And when I see them now begin to drive not just an economic but a political agenda, I think it's time for us to rethink just how in-depth we want this relationship to go, and what our contribution is and what we also want out of it in terms of being able to maintain our national identity and maintain who we are and, keep our dignity. So yeah, that's my take. Yeah. For me, I feel it's a matter of concern.
Matter of concern. The treatment to Africans as well, and their policies, as far as we know, the CPC party is concerned. Even that particular forum yesterday, we had a pronouncement from John Pombe Magufuli saying that his Chama cha Mapinduzi ruling party will be in power forever, sparking anger in opposition, right? In power forever. So when we hear about power forever, we can remember also Yahya Jammeh, when he was saying that he will rule for 1 billion years. And people want in Africa to actually cling to power, even if it's hanging by the fingernails as well. That has really drawn a lot of reactions from the people of China, people of Tanzania, the opposition. Let's hear from Dr. Hananje.
Yeah, Jammeh aspired to rule for. Sorry, my voice has been a little bit affected lately by a flu, so I hope my viewers won't mind if it disappears occasionally. Yahya Jammeh aspired to rule for 1,000,000 or 1,000,000 years, except that naturally he only has about 100. So it's virtually impossible for him to rule much longer than that. Now, what we are seeing with the Communist Party of China, which in about 3 years will be marking 100 years of its birth, it's actually not different from, let's say, what the previous colonial powers have done. Mm-hmm. And most countries seek to spread their influence through their ideology, their practice, their systems of governance, and their politics, or how they organize their affairs.
Yes.
Increasingly, of course, we have seen the emergence of, for instance, the Confucius Institutes around Africa and around
yes.
the world, frankly. Mm-hmm. In part, it speaks to the growing power and influence of China around the world. Now, the statement made by Magufuli about ruling forever, well, every party aspires to rule forever. It's only that a lot of times in many countries you cannot unless you're a dictatorship. So, personally, I won't really take offense because of that. Politics in a few years are going to determine in Tanzania whether that's going to be possible. But what China is doing, while there may be some noises here and there, it is essentially what the English have done. It's what the Americans have done through using different channels in education. The French in Alliance Française, that's part of foreign policy projects to influence ideas and cultures in other countries. And so, for me, there's actually nothing surprising at all. It's just, when it comes to what we've been hearing about the treatment of Kenyans here by our Chinese partners, mm-hmm. I think part of it is also about us. And as my colleague just mentioned here, people treat you only the extent to which you allow them to.
Right.
And so if we seem to either doing very badly or allowing that type of behavior, then it's likely to continue. However, being our guest, I think they should also treat our fellow citizens with a lot more respect. Mm-hmm. We don't have to demand it. It's expected that when you visiting another place, you need to respect their home.
Right. You need to respect their home, and of course also maybe to just draw from the archives where we had Gado really drawing this particular editorial cartoon that you had it on your screen. Tanzania first to adopt the VAR technology, that is the video assistant repression, according to Gado, and we can see him now here. The churches also, they're not at peace. NGOs are not at peace as well. Opposition, media, Russia, we can leave it, and the others as well. And of course, this is just depicting, even to his statement, that the party will rule for, 1,000,000 years. Dr. Mustafa, your sentiments?
Yeah, Debarl, parties that have been ruling for a decade or 15 or 20 years tend to come up with this kind of political propaganda that they're going to be there for forever. I think Kanu did the same. Some decades back. We've seen that in a number of countries. And that's just propaganda. They do not want to show that they are weak. And so just to, I guess, scare off their opponents, that they are strong. And also to put it in the minds of their followers that they are a strong party. The Communist Party of China is a party that has a membership of up to 60 million or so people in a country of 1.5 billion. But that is the model that it is there in China. Now, when you look at the Communist Party of China, it's a communist party, yes, but it's not modeled in the same fashion as the former Soviet Republic, whatever kind of party, if at all, you had there at that time. No, it isn't. It has a vision, an ideology, and it kind of seeks some kind of a mandate from the people, even though not in the traditional democratic way, a Western democratic way that is normally done. What we need to look at, has the party delivered in terms of economics? Yes, it has. The party has delivered in the history of mankind the most number of people out of poverty within a decade. Has it delivered politically? That's a question to debate by political scientists. But we see that quite a number of African countries are trying to adopt that kind of a model. I think the Jubilee Party in Kenya has sent in or has had some exchange visits with the Chinese to try and learn from that model. And I'm sure what inspires Jubilee Party is the economic model that the Chinese government has put in place inside China to propel it out of poverty. But the question here is China interested, even when it is helping African countries? Is it because of altruism, or is it because of its own interest? And you'll find that it has nothing to do with altruism. It's about Chinese interest, and therefore it's up to us, it's up to the African countries to decide how we want the Chinese to treat us. If we want them to treat us in the manner that they are, based on the media reports that we've been seeing, then they will treat us that way. Dr. Kanenja talked about us allowing them to treat us that way. We should not allow them to treat us that way.
Right. Let's hear from Professor Naomi Damba. Do you actually, if you're talking about the model of the CPC party, do we hail it a success that now we should actually try and, you know, extrapolate that throughout Africa, what they're doing with the invasion of the Chinese policies, the Chinese loans?
Debarl, the time has come for us to be very careful. My colleagues here have enumerated a number of issues that yes, we need to have a partnership with China, but on African ground. What has happened, Debarl, is I was a visiting scholar at University of Pudong, the nerve center of the Chinese economy, Chinese future, Chinese history. That's where Mao Zedong set up his own program for the future of China. And to a certain extent, I would say not only certain extent, to a large extent, it has worked for China. It has brought in, like Mustafa just said, a very large number of people from poverty to almost middle class.
Yes.
It has transformed the entire society such that China has a huge trade gap between United States and China, and now is using its own leverage in the continent of Africa. But now, Africans, for instance, in United States, Debarl, are the highest educated people of any class in United States. Africans have acquired significant capital in United States. Africans are very skillful when they come to the United Nations and all other World Bank people. Now, so how can you explain that China is bringing technology to Africa and importing its own people, including cooks? So that what we need to do is to say where are we now, and where do we need to go on a longer term, and who do we need to partner with, on what basis? Because we have our people, we have our skills, we have our country, we have our sovereign, and therefore we need to protect that. The debt ratio, as you look at right now, between Africa and China is mounting. And it's going to reach certain point where certain project, China will have to have a control for 99 years in order for them to draw back their money. So we need to be very, very careful about our relations.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's hear from Peter Bierajak.
Well, yeah, let me pick up from where Professor left. There's actually a case now, I think, is somewhere, one of the countries in Philippines, where the largest port in the country has been taken over by a Chinese company because is a result of a debt repayment arrangement. So these are issues that are quite interesting. And President Obama was talking yesterday, and he was talking about how we are living in strange times. And I think that is the fundamental words. We are living in a very strange times in which, if you look at the kind of norms that have kept the global order functioning over the last 60 years are now being questioned. They are now being threatened. And there's nobody that is standing up for these values anymore. Ideals like democracy, fairness, justice, both within countries and among and between countries, these are issues that are being challenged. We're just watching the press conference between Trump and Putin. And you see, basically, you know, it reminded me of Fukuyama and his article in 1989 when he talked about the end of history. When you look at it, we may be at such a moment in which some of these ideals, liberal world order that we have come to assume, this new liberalism that we have come to assume to be basically the ideology of progress, is now being questioned. And Putin is saying there is a different way. Authoritarianism, he has been in power for 18 years in Russia. Xi of China has now basically removed term limits, and he could be there forever. And what we are seeing is basically rise of strongman politics, combined also with nationalism, which is being fed by this phenomenon of immigration. So when you look at what does this mean for the future, a future in which the risks that are facing humanity are shared, things like climate change, but you have states now that are denying these things, not even countries like Russia, but now you have a US president that basically doesn't believe in climate change. You have people in Australia. You know, it's very worrying when you look at it. So what China is doing here is China is coming with a different model, because he's saying, look at what kind of leadership is the Americans projecting in the global scale. Who are they? What do they stand up for? And China has been the one that championed this hybrid of economic policies that are market-based and political ideologies that are communist and authoritarian in nature. And they have this very interesting mix. And by the way, I was reading a posting by one of the professors at Cambridge, John Dunn. If there is anything for Cambridge scholars, you know, these old men, they don't interact in the world politics, but they have the ability of foresight to see things. And what are they saying? They're saying this is the death of democracy that is coming. And when you try to imagine what is this going to mean, is quite interesting. And this is basically, if you look like Magufuli, all of this, they actually, if you look, yes, they may be improving things in terms of governance and corruption, but the authoritarianism that is coming with that, the price of it is too heavy, especially if you value things like freedom, you know?
Yeah, true.
So this is the challenge, you know.
Yeah, it's a big challenge.